via descent to a lot of players from different other countries. So they're going to be coming in, forming a brotherhood, forming nice connections there, and maybe they'll give them the opportunity to come through. They do come through to our game with what we said was some of our new, not quite new countries, but somewhat new to the format. We have Nikhil and Reddy from India, who played in Japan Nats, and then Brede Stavø didn't have as much competitions to their name, but we're not going to let that hold them back, because maybe that could be like a little tactic. I'm not going to put any competitions down. Opponents underestimate me, and then they're going to go through and possibly take this W. Have to see what players go for in this first match coming in.
So these two players, these two names are actually very well known in the general online VGC community. And I say online is because these players are actually managers of like multiple grassroots player leagues. For example, some leagues from Smogon, and then like for Brede, he has been a manager for Team Norway back in 2021, the first year of our World Cup, and also now again in 2022, going again. And last time they were eliminated in the qualifiers, so this time definitely going to try and outdo themselves from last year. And then for Nikhil, the words that we see on screen, he actually was staying in Japan for a while, I believe, and then to qualify for Japan nationals, you have to do well in one of the ICs, and he did so, and he actually managed to qualify for Japan Nets last year. So now let's go into the teams, and what do we see here? This is a mirror match, and the VR team has actually arranged the mons so that they actually face each other. So this is literally something like a mirror image that we see in front of us. So the only thing different would be the Porygon 2 on Nikhil's end and the Grimmsnarl on Brede's end. So what do you what team what dynamics do you see here in this crazy matchup?
Well, I can see it come down to, maybe who has the bulkier Lunala, who can win the speed tire Lunala, because, it's VGC, we love to see those. And then, you've got the Groudons again, they could speed tire, one could be bulk up, one could be swords dance, so little diffs there could mean one's getting defense boost or one is getting a higher attack boost. The one thing I am seeing which could help in multiple matchups is the Porygon and the Grimmsnarl. Porygon gives Nikhil a Trick Room mode, a mode where he has some ice beams and it has it to go into opposing Venusaurs, try attack to try and get some lucky hacks down, and just has nice overall coverage, and takes those hits from Pokemon like Lunala, like Calyrex Shadow, because of its normal typing, which could be very good for a switch in, just to kind of get the flow going and maybe stop, especially Brede in the tracks if you can get the call right on that opposing Pokemon. But really, you've got Brede's side with the Grimmsnarl, which can set up screens, it can paralyze itself naturally through Thunder Wave, has Scary Face maybe for other Pokemon that can't Thunder Wave, and it has so many options, so both of them are very good to jump into this game. And we see the Grimmsnarl and Venusaur, so one of the Pokemon we saw different, and one of the Pokemon we saw same, in front of a completely different pair of the Charizard and the Incineroar.
Yeah, so we're gonna see the match from Nikhil's point of view, Team India, going up against Team Norway. So yeah, first match of the whole season that we're gonna feature on stream. And here we come up straight with like a very offensive lead from the Charizard. And we still don't know what the item of the Charizard is, because you always have to respect the fact that the Venusaur on the opposing end might go for a sleep powder, right? With a Groudon switch in, enabling the Venusaur to go fast. And at the same time, the Grimmsnarl definitely has an option to go for like a sneaky Thunder Wave or even set screens for themselves. So the fake out pressure from Nikhil's Incineroar is quite important.
Yeah, that fake out pressure is going to, really scare Brede. Of course, we could see a Gigantamax coming from the Venusaur as well, just to get that Vinash going quick as possible and kind of deny any fake outs going to that slot. But, maybe there could be a call there and just go for a fake out into the Grimmsnarl, stop any screens going out, try to do as much damage as possible. You're saying they could be scared of the sleep there, but some Charizard have opted to run Lumberry, so it stops getting put to sleep. But Brede could read into that and go for maybe a Thunder Wave, but we do see I believe there'll be a Gigantamax coming out, because both Pokemon have got the Gigantamax factor, and we do see it is the Venusaurs are going straight for that big damage to the Vine Lash, possibly a Max Quake into the Incineroar, just to get us a Death Boost. Whether or not it'll help in front of this Charizard, I don't know, but it could be a little cling of hope just to try and be like, I've got my damage, maybe a weakness policy is there, we'll have to see. This fake out does go out into that Grimmsnarl.
Yeah, so the fake out was very obvious, and something very interesting is that both players did not switch in their Groudons. So here comes a very strong G-Max Wildfire. This is really the battle of the two like starter Pokemon, right? And what do we see here? A weakness policy revealed from the Venusaur. And going straight for that Vine Lash, I think it knows that it only has this one chance because Charizard is obviously faster than a Venusaur, right? So this is the one chance to set off those vines and that damage over time on Nikhil's side of the field. So both sides actually have these effects, the wildfire effect and the vine effects like triggering right now.
Yeah, having both those effects means there is a timer for both players, so they have to play their switches, quite fairly, quite reasonably, because, they're going to be switching in. They're going to be taking big damage if it's Nikhil, because that Venusaur has got that weakness policy boost, and we do see the trick, I believe that was.
That has to be a scary face, yeah.
Not good with my Japanese move names there. So the slower Charizard and the Vinash is just going to get rid of, I believe that is the Incineroar going down. So that is one of the pieces gone from the puzzle. We know Intimidate's going onto the Groudon later on, which is really good for Brede. But the Max Airstream comes out, so that speed boost is, the speed drop, sorry, is kind of mitigated. But it's still not the best thing, because it's still -1, and that Venusaur is still showing it can outspeed, quite possibly. And then again, Grimmsnarl being alive means we just keep throwing him out and throwing him out, and just making sure there is no damage on the board. It unfortunately doesn't, and will die to the wildfire effect. So a nice little switch in for both players here. We have to kind of call it well. The Charizard comes in, that's boosting the Groudon, sorry, it's boosting the Venusaur. We do see Venusaur being the option for Nikhil. So to see what Brede goes with. Maybe it could go for their Groudon, trying to predict some things. We'll have to see.
What an interesting strategy coming out from Brede, because he actually uses the fact that his Venusaur is holding the weakness policy to actually dish out damage. Both times the Venusaur actually used like a grass type attack, and grass type is not super effective against Charizard and Incineroar, and in 2 turns Brede was still able to remove the Incineroar from play. So I think that makes sense in some form of game plan. And over here we see Brede switch in that Lunala, while Nikhil actually switches in his own Venusaur. Like, I believe choosing not to switch in the Groudon, because that's something that would definitely give Brede's Venusaur an increase in speed. And this is very interesting because the Charizard, after 2 turns of max, is switching out and getting the Groudon in from Nikhil's end, probably to allow this Venusaur to move faster, and it does. So this should be a Weather Ball, I believe.
Yeah, that Weather Ball getting that little bit of damage down onto the Venusaur to make sure it is gone, which gives Nikhil that little bit of a step ahead. You see the the Meteor Beam, all the beams coming out from Lunala these days. Gets a special attack boost, but we have to see if it will get that. When the Power Herb activates, will it get that hit that it needs? And it does get the hit off of it. So that is good. Of course, a lot of players are scared it's going to miss. Goes into the Groudon, does a respectable bit of damage there. Not enough to, consider it maybe the stop option, maybe just trying to call, maybe Charizard switching elsewhere. But, it just gets nice damage down onto the Groudon, and it gets to that Vinash as well. So maybe something can come in, maybe the Moongas Beam could come in, the stab, plus special attack boost, could do a lot of damage. The opposing Groudon comes in. It isn't going to like this Venusaur too much, but we could maybe see some Assault Vest that stops taking with damage. A Fire Punch knockout. It's a world of imagination go with these Pokemon, because they're all Pokemon that have so many moves to pick from, but unfortunately you have 4 to use on it. We see Sleep Powder.
Oh wow, Sleep Powder.
Sleep Powder.
Yeah. So I would say that switch from Charizard into Groudon mid Dynamax, I think it makes so much sense, taking the Meteor Beam from Lunala very handily because it's not super effective, and allowing Nikhil's Venusaur. It might be a potential speed tie, but if your opponent has a weakness policy Venusaur, that kind of hints that the Venusaur is built to be a bit slower and way more bulky. So Nikhil goes for the read and takes out the Dynamax from Brede's end, and now Brede is actually left with just 2 Mons. And the Wildfire actually broke Lunala's Shadow Shield, which is why we saw the Precipice Blades. Thankfully, both of them hit, and the Precipice Blades from Nikhil's Groudon actually doing very good damage into the Lunala, and the Lunala is forced to take 1 turn of sleep.
Yeah, having that one turn asleep means Lunala can't go for any like trick rooms if it has it, or just dish out those strong stab attacks. You see Protect come out from Brede's Groudon, trying to maybe scout for game 2, just keep it as safe as possible. The attack does go into it, and Groudon
There's a Leaf Storm.
That was a Leaf Storm, then correct Lunala for the sleep, and we see the Heat Crash, guaranteed, no misses. Gets out Lunala. You know, Lunala can sometimes maybe wake up and could have Wide Guard who carries it, and that could be very scary for all these Pokemon like Groudon. But, you know, Brede is kind of in the backseat now, because you have 3 Pokemon against 1, and 2 of them are doing very big damage, and 1 of them can just chip away. We see the Leaf Storm coming out, it does hit, and grabs a knockout there.
Yeah, so in that interaction there, actually Lunala tried to move based on the text below. Lunala actually tried to move, showing that Lunala has a faster speed stat than Groudon. So there was a chance Lunala could wake up on turn 1 and go for a powered Moon Guy's Beam, because Lunala has already been charged from the Meteor Beam to possibly take out the Groudon, or maybe target into the Venusaur to try and fish out a Sash. So unfortunately, Nikhil got the sleep turns he needed, and with that clever switching into the Groudon mid-game, was able to take game 1 in a very commanding position with the faster Venusaur. And the Venusaur in Sun activated was able to keep putting on pressure, Sleep Powder, Leaf Storm into the Groudon to clean up the game.
Yeah, getting Leaf Storm in the Groudon, clean up the game was really good because it, you know, it revealed to Brede that, you know, there's not the 100% accurate move to get the knockout, but it also shows that Nikhil was just going with every option possible, not going trying to be like cheeky with a sleep powder, or going those slightly weaker moves with more accuracy. So the player's there, and of course, now we go into this game where Brede knows pretty much every viable option Nikhil can go for, and we could see maybe some text, like I said, with that Wide Guard, just to overrun any precipice plays, meaning that only 1 Pokemon per turn in that situation can attack, and then of course Nikhil has to adapt to that with maybe going for the Heat Crashes, which against these Pokemon which are naturally heavy, you know, it's going to do very little damage, even with that stun up. So both players have room to maneuver, and I hope they, you know, do change up and look into what they go for this next game.
Yeah, before the game, like before both players send out their mons, I just want to quickly say that these two teams are actually so different in terms of the way they play. We saw like sort of a difference in the Venusaur item, and then the difference in like being able to lead a Grimmsnarl, right? So this is really the beauty of team building when it comes to Series 12. So these are 2 completely different leads coming out from both players. So Nikhil from India sends out Venusaur and Incineroar, and then Brede tries to adjust this time in a game 2, and then he leads with Lunala and Charizard being the one that goes on the offense this time, knowing that his Venusaur is, you know, should be the one that's slower, and the weakness policy strategy isn't really working out from what we saw in game 1.
Yeah, relying on that weakness policy when most of the Pokemon that can proc it are hitting it, you know, for both stab and super effective, is a bit of a scary thing to go with. We saw that it did live the Dmax Wildfire outside of the sun, which, you know, is really helpful, but it's not the most helpful thing if you can now predict that, but okay, now Groudon just comes in. So we see the Groudon is switching in here for this scenario, though, meaning the sun is going up, and this is going to be a very fast Venusaur, but at the expense of Charizard having that solar power boost. But it's going to go for that Protect, so actually a detriment this turn to it.
That Sleep Powder, Sleep Powder,
though, is kind of not a detriment because we are going to see the effect of the solar power go up, but the Trick Room coming out, meaning that it's going to be slower now, which also means it's faster, and it's just going to be a world of, you know, calling things right, because we could see the Porygon 2 maybe come in to catch out any, you know, if it is in the back, to catch out any Ghost-type moves. If not, maybe Incineroar can take that quite nicely, unless they predict that well and go for a Meteor Beam, which will do a lot of damage at +1. So Nikhil has to think what one is switching and what it switches into, and then Brede has to predict, is that switch coming? Or do they just go for the safest play and hope for the best? If Charizard does switch out here and go into Incineroar, just to neuter the Groudon a little tiny bit.
Yeah, I thought that whole situation, all the turn of events happening in turn 1 is so interesting, because from the previous game we know that the Groudon actually moves first, right? So here comes the Groudon going first, going for, I would say that's a Stone Age into the Incineroar switching, but actually that was once a Charizard, so that makes sense. And the Lunala has to charge the Meteor Beam here. If it goes into the Venusaur, I believe this Venusaur is carrying the Focus Sash, and even though Venusaur is the fastest, Venusaur still gets a turn to dish out damage. And look how bulky that Venusaur is.
Yeah, some Venusaur opting to have a little bit of bulk, even with that Focus Sash, so there's certain attacks that don't proc it straight away because, you know, whereas you could go 252, 2524 or some sort of variation, you have that little bit of bulk, so some moves aren't putting straight on your Sash, so you're not completely useless on that second turn, especially in Trick Room scenarios. Sleep Powder coming out there, meaning that that usefulness from the bulk has come through. Lunala's asleep, but Lunala's not really the one who's abusing the Trick Room as much. It would like it, but, you know, it can take a little nap, while Incineroar does its job of having that slow parting shot, meaning that Groudon is even lower of an attack stat. And what comes in here can take a hit a bit better. With a Charizard, it's just going to take nothing because of the effect of flying types on ground types, but the Groudon comes in, and still a very bulky Pokemon, so it's not going to take the most damage.
Oh. So the Precipice Blades misses into the Lunala and unfortunately can't break Lunala's Shadow Shield. And wow, look at that read! Venusaur goes straight for a Leaf Storm into a Incineroar, predicting that the Incineroar should, you know, more or less go for a parting shot. But in a different scenario, the Incineroar could have easily just went for the Flare Blitz. So this was a very, I think it's a very good read coming out from Nikhil, and he's up a game, so I believe that's something that he thinks he can do in this position. And wow, and just like that, takes out a very strong restricted Pokemon from Brede's side, and now Brede is only left with Lunala, Incineroar, and a Charizard, and we still have, I believe, 2 more turns of Trick Room. So wow, very heads up play coming out from Nikhil, probably reading like 2 turns ahead, and has a flowchart, some lines to react to when Brede goes for that Trick Room option, and this is what we see playing out.
Yeah, well, a lot of the time, if you play a team yourself, you're gonna know every mechanic of it. But probably Nikhil himself in the past has been in some situation where he's gone to have to go through the Trick Room mode in Game 2, whereas thought in Brede's head and thought, like, I've done it before, you're likely gonna do it before, and
Wow.
then just taken common knowledge to predict the parting shot and just get a nice little knockout. It would have been a bit of an iffy situation if the Charizard came in, but still that would have been a nice bit of chip damage on the Charizard, which takes more chip from the effects of Solar Power. The Flare Blitz goes into Groudon to see if there's any burns to really neuter it even further. There are not, so luckily my commentator skills didn't come in. So that came in a lot in the past when I've mentioned burns. And then Berries activate, and then Groudon is going to go for a Precipice Blades. It does nothing. That's belief in the effect of a berry. And then Lunala still taking this little nap. It's biding its time, you know, it's got to get its beauty sleep because maybe it can come back later and be that pivotal piece in the end game. But we'll have to hope that Nikhil doesn't get there before Brede does.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if that Groudon is at -3 attack, right? With Intimidate followed by Parting Shot and another Intimidate coming out from Brede's Incineroar, it doesn't matter. You just go for that P-Blitz and break Lunala's Shadow Shield. And with this Incineroar switch in, like, very heads up because Incineroar now pins Lunala in in Trick Room. Yeah, and sure enough, Brede responds and Lunala goes for that Protect here, and that, I think that's a throat chop in Japanese, so correctly calling that the Incineroar should target the Lunala in this turn. But Nikhil actually thinks 1 step ahead, knowing that Trick Room is going to end, and hard switches the Groudon out into Charizard here. And this is like in the next turn, we're going to see 2 very explosive Pokemon trying to speed tie each other. Wow, interestingly, the sun goes out here.
Yes, the sun going out is, both good and bad for both Charizards. They're taking less damage from their self-recoil from the effect of Solar Power. But at the same time, if they have got a speed tie, they've got to work out who's going to get this max Rockfall off first. As you see Nikhil hovering over it, really thinking of what to go for. So, because both Pokemon are super effective, both these opposing Pokemon, they just have to know when to go for it and what one's going to protect or not. Even though, their 4 times effectiveness for both of them is going to do a lot of damage. Well, not, as I said, Lunala gets a double protect. A lot of damage in that throw chop on that Lunala. And if there's a protect on the Charizard, a lot of damage for that 4 times effectiveness. But Groudon opts to come in to guarantee even more damage comes out through a possible protect if the opposing Charizard goes for it. Even if not, a little bit of chip damage from that Solar Power. So you're giving your opponent the boost, but at the same time, you're taking away from their HP. So a good play there from Nikhil. Hopefully it pays out well for them. And the Lunala doesn't do anything funky in these next couple turns.
Yeah, here we go again. Like Nikhil's always proactively switching in the Groudon to get that sun, to make full use of the sun's effect. Like in the early parts of the game to get Venusaur to move fast and launch off the sleep powder. And in this like mid game, allowing the Charizard to just do damage. And I think both players oh wow, that's a Dynamax Lunala. I kind of expected Brede to Dynamax the Charizard instead. But this might make sense because the Lunala has already charged up the Power Herb, right? Because he already went for Meteor Beam into the Venusaur. And now I believe the Lunala is just going straight for something like a Max Rock Fall. So here comes a Max Rock Fall from Nikhil's Charizard coming off of Ancient Power. This makes sense. Goes into the Charizard, and we also saw that the speed in the war of speed ties, Brede's Charizard managed to go first and actually did good damage with, I believe that was a Hurricane in Sun into the Groudon. Yeah, but it doesn't matter, right? It's good damage into the Groudon. And here we see, in retaliation, Lunala, sure enough, going for that +1 Max Rock Fall. I think even with Charty Berry on Charizard's side, the Charizard might not even survive. So, wow, what a heads-up play coming out from Brede, and I believe this kind of turns the momentum back into their favor.
Yeah, it does put the momentum back in for them because, that early game when Pokemon were just going down, especially from Nikhil's really good call onto that Groudon earlier. So now the upper hand is on a Dynamax, waiting it out so it can be a point where it's going to stay around longer. And Charizard just dropping means that its effectiveness is completely gone. There are no Max Wildfires to chip down.
Yeah.
And Nikhil now has to really work around the positioning. Can try and call maybe the physical attacks coming out for the Incineroar with their Incineroar. Try and call a Ghost type max move into the Venusaur by bringing Incineroar, who would take it a little bit better with his Dark typing, but not the best in the world at this +1. And Groudon really just sits there, again getting neutered by the opposing Incineroar. It's going to have to figure out a game plan where it can get in without the Incineroar on the field to try and get that big damage off. And as the Incineroar goes to the fake out, so Groudon just lives. But then we can see if there's a double up here or a very good call. Into that slot and will grab the Incineroar there. Absolutely amazing play. And Venusaur is going to come in. It's going to be a sitting duck because it's not going to take a hit from either of these Pokemon. And Groudon, turn left on it, and it's got 3 HP. So that's not going to be much. And Brede completely turning this around. And we're going to be taking it to quite possibly a Game 3.
Yeah, I was saying in the first 2 games, we already kind of identified the speed difference from Brede's Lunala, the very big one we see on screen, and Nikhil's Groudon. So many speed interactions. Just now in Trick Room, the Groudon would move first and go for Precipice Blitz, but this time, Lunala is in control. Trick Room is over. Lunala is faster, and Lunala is always able to attack the Groudon first. So with this like Max Rock 4 option, a very interesting adaptation with Dynamax, Lunala is able to take out both of Nikhil's Fire-type mons in Charizard and Incineroar, like 2 of the most annoying Pokemon for the opposing team to deal with, right? And making full use of Lunala's Dynamax. Yeah, unfortunately, the Venusaur is the king here. Venusaur is the fastest, and Venusaur was able to land that important sleep powder into the Lunala. Lunala takes a turn of sleep, but there could be a chance that Lunala wakes up, and both mons from Nikhil's end are really very low in health. So I think Lunala kind of needs to wake up soon to try and finish off this game. Otherwise, Nikhil's Groudon can keep going for Precipice Blitz to do important damage.
Yeah, Nikhil Groudon will have that upper hand with this Precipice damage given it hits, because Nikhil has the problem of Leaf Storm, can miss, and it is lowering the special attack stat. Restless Blades, miss, but it doesn't miss this time, and it just lives on the Sliver, but the Sand will take it out there. So Nikhil having that weather and having that nice Sleep Powder hit, a bit of Lady Luck in there, that will take this game 2 and the set. We'll go to Nikhil and India showing their prowess, from last season and taking this game on stream. So, Norway having to really probably recalculate back in the changing rooms to see, what they can go for their next few games of this tournament to maybe get that upper hand on India and show India who the real boss is, but not stuck in qualifying.